Heaven Ascension Dio alongside the World Over Heaven. Now this character fits the mold of these non-canon JoJo characters because of how ridiculous this concept is. But I wanted to put this power into question. Every major JoJo antagonist against Heaven Ascension Dio and his stand, the World Over Heaven. Now if you do enjoy concepts like this, subscribe so I know that y'all are messing with it. Now firstly, what is this new Dio capable of? There are two enormous changes from the Dio that we once knew in Stardust Crusaders. With his plans finally realized, he's gained an improvement and a new ability. The improvement is that his time stop duration has changed. It's gone from the original 5 to 9 seconds to an indescribable amount of time. Look, the time amount is indescribable currently, and we do know, or well, more so have seen that, yeah, there's for sure a way that it's been lengthened, and plus the fact of how Dio's essence in general would lengthen his time, but we actually aren't sure on how long that is. It is just for sure longer than the original 5 to 9 seconds. With this information, you probably think, okay, well, yeah, okay, the character's lost. They lost. It's already this bad already. But no, we're not done. The second ability is called Reality Overwrite. With this, he can manipulate reality using the fist of his stand, the World Over Heaven, and with a single punch, Dio could erase the effects of a stand or rewrite the conditions of any battle to his favor. Now the issue with Dio's strength is that because he's so powerful, his ego is just as strong. So in the context of Eyes of Heaven, Dio fights directly and doesn't usually use his time stop in his underhanded ways like how he did against Kakyoin, for example. Since he's at his absolute pinnacle of power, he puts the hands on everyone that he's fighting. But he is fine with using his reality overwrite to neutralize you. Now, since he'll be fighting against every single one of them, what are they capable of? Well, first, we'll be going about these fights individually, and then we'll approach it with Attained Dio against all of them at once. In Heaven Dio versus Phantom Blood Dio, with the inability to see stands, Phantom Blood Dio will get jumped by Dio and the world. His vampirism isn't enough to keep him around, and even if Heaven Dio isn't using Hamon, it really doesn't matter. If it's in character, he'll probably give Phantom Blood Dio the opportunity to join him. But again, if he says no, then he is chopping him with the reality bending power that he has and removing his ability to regenerate. It would be over for him instantly. And in Dio versus Ultimate Cars, it still plays out similarly, because while Ultimate Cars is powerful in his own merit, while being able to regenerate from damn near everything and having the biology of everything that's lived on Earth, Dio towers over his character as he's just an entirely different level of facilities to end this fight. Now, Dio might just let Cars regenerate so that he can show how much of a difference that there is now between these two. He can stop time away from every single obstacle that Cars can think of with his 400 IQ. And because even if he were to get it over with Dio, like, oh, hey, like he's just finally got a scenario where he got the drop on him, time stop can mitigate any problem. Then Dio's pride and reality manipulation will end Cars, so then there's no more chances of him thinking outside the box and combating him. Some people might think, well, Dio could just make himself even smarter to flex on Cars and make it that type of battle of strategy, but modifying himself in that way is definitely a large blow to his ego, so he most likely wouldn't do it. Regardless, yeah, Ultimate Cars would not have the ability to win. He has the intelligence to eventually figure out what's going on with Heaven Dio, but he doesn't have the capabilities of lasting past this assessment stage. So yeah, loss. Now when it comes to HA Dio against Stardust Crusaders Dio, that's another large diff because they're the same character, except one of them is everything that the other one wanted to be. So yeah, I'm gonna give it to Heaven Ascension Dio. And then there's Heaven Ascension Dio against Yoshikage Kira. Now, Yoshikage Kira and his Stand Killer Queen aren't really for combat like that. They're not. And more so function on playing the long game and or being a sneaky person, which isn't possible here. Kira cannot blitz Dio, nor would he ever get the chance to blow him up. Sheer Heart Attack won't function either. And as a matter of fact, Dio could just change how Sheer Heart Attack works and make him only attack Kira if he wanted to. That would be terrifying, but it's possible. Next, Diavolo and his stand King Crimson. Now say that Diavolo epitaphed and saw himself punching through Dio. Say if that is the case, that was the case, and say that he actually does do it. Dio then repairs himself and then turns Diavolo into a paste. Even if Diavolo skipped time, erased time, and then removed Dio's head off of his body, that's nothing because he's come back from worse. We've seen that happen multiple times even. It's just nothing to him. And next we have H.A. Dio versus Enrico Pucci and his stand Made in Heaven. Or let's say any of the stands, it really doesn't matter. Because see, in terms of this matchup, it's actually very possible for Pucci to blitz Dio. But again, he has nothing substantial to make it stick. And if Dio does feel like he has to use his time stop to stop Pucci, he'll use it, but sparingly. Next, we have Funny Valentine, and I think he has great potential at this point, considering that he can completely leave the situation altogether if he recognizes that this is far beyond his pay grade, which it is. While, yes, he can try to, grab Dio and attempt to collide him with another to destroy him, but, one, Dio can mitigate this happening instantly, and two, Dio is going to outmuscle him entirely. Like, he's not taking that man anywhere. There's no trap and there's no nothing. And plus, Dio can, fly. So it's not even... That's completely out of the picture. And finally, for the individual fights, we have Toru and the Wonder of You against Heaven Ascension Dio. Now, here's my thing, all right? This is going to be rough. So, some would believe that Wonder of You is above manipulation of reality. Now, I think it's possibly due to how powerful Soft and Wet Go Beyond is and how that had to be the thing to defeat Wonder of You, but Calamity at its basis is still reality itself. If Wonder of You's Calamity had been on par with the ability to actively manipulate chaos, then it would be considered a large facet of reality manipulation, but it's not. Plus, I don't even think that Wonder of You's Calamity can even do anything against something like Time Stop, for example. Because yes, sure, maybe after it, but while time is stopped, there's no way that any sort of disaster can affect you during it. Dio can most likely pursue Toru and turn whatever calamities that are sent his way into nothing or just nullify his ability completely. And then he would run the hands against Wonder of You, which is something that stand and not Toru are made for at all. They're made to avoid combat altogether. So individually speaking, I think Heaven Ascension Dio should wipe the floor with every single JoJo antagonist. Now, here's the difference thing though. Now, how would he fare against all of them at once? And we'll keep it in character at first, then we'll have them run it up as best as possible, which would be out of character, but it is for the sake of the scenario, and we want to see if they could do it. Let's try to set the stage. Dio wants to fight all of them at once because, let's just say he's on a huge ego boost and wants to assert dominance, which honestly isn't that too far off. Well, the first issue with every antagonist on the team is the fact that we have a lot of their own ego to worry about. The Dios, Cars, Diavolo, it's all bad. I think Funny Valentine is still their best bet of a leader purely because he has such an instantly useful power, but I don't think that he'd bother considering who he's dealing with. Valentine will most likely get himself out of this and instead try to continuously evade Dio while also trying to get something that would save him from this power-hungry demon. I think Cars, honestly speaking, would be one of the first one to go and lose. Diavolo is going to see the future and reconsider his position on this, probably standing besides Toru and Kira. The Dios are probably shocked, and Pucci is happy that Dio's plan had finally been completed. But if these characters are to fight Heaven Ascension Dio in character, it would most likely bank on someone like Valentine taking charge and switching out for more favorable and compliant versions of everyone. Because personally speaking, I don't think that Dio would also even let him do all that. But with his ego, you know, it's possible. Now, if they aren't in character, and instead the scenario just works with their abilities and we're forcing them to work together, this works hundreds of times better. Because now, even with potential, I actually don't think that they even survived the assessment part of this fight. Because, okay, fine, let's really think about this. Say that Cars still goes first, because someone has to, you know? They're not gonna all run in and get smoked equally. Say that Cars goes first because he's like the most physically gifted of them all, and Dio one-shots him because he's using reality manipulation to stop him from regenerating. That itself wouldn't tell them enough on how to counteract this and what to do next. Now, suppose that Toru locks Wonder of You onto Dio. In that case, that'd work for a good bit, I think. Now, once he realizes who's the cause of this calamity that's pursuing him, he'll soon nullify it and then end Toru's existence. They'd have to try to figure out some sort of plan while Cars or Wonder of You casually does their stuff. And I don't think that we can even get Pucci to agree to take on this form of Dio, but if we're forcing him to work with us, and this is for the sake of the scenario, then if they were to realize Dio's reality manipulating abilities only work through the hands of the World Over Heaven, then with one swift chop, Pucci can solve this problem instantly, and then they can win the fight. There would be no issue, because once chop, boom, they jump him after that. But again, I'm stressing this massively. It would require them to learn and understand that. And if you, for example, for the sake of the scenario, what if they just both know each other's abilities? That gives Heaven Ascension Dio more stuff to work with, because he would completely just nullify Maiden Heaven altogether. You know? In this time that they have to figure out what Dio does, Dio is picking them off individually. And Funny Valentine, realizing that they might not be capable of doing this, would be good, you know? That'd be the best case scenario, realizing that this fight is just not for me at this current stage, because then he could run away continuously until he finds an answer. Now, potential is a lot. Potential says a lot, you know? Like, Diavolo can have Kira prepare to turn Dio into a bomb, skip time with King Crimson, and then get straight to the result of that happening. Boom, he would be disappeared. Nothing would happen. He's gone. He can't undo his reality manipulation or anything like that, because he's already gone. He's disappeared because time has skipped. You know, that'd be cool and very possible of them doing, but who else are you sending in against Dio so that everyone learns his true ability? You can maybe send in Stardust Crusaders Dio, but he wouldn't really have to show any of his reality warping powers to him, because he'd just be able to outmuscle him and whoop him in his world of stop time. You know, a good scenario would be that, you know, while Calamity is pursuing Heaven Ascension Dio, the worst possible thing happens, which would be losing his hands to the stand, and or being in a position where Pucci could learn about it and then cut it out. There's a lot, but that's so much of a stipulation to add on to it, you know. And in addition to that, he can still stop time instantly and mitigate any sort of chance of that happening. You have to do some real gymnastics for this to work. And, you know, you'd have the Calamity, you know, almost happen. And then maybe Stardust Crusaders Dio can help carry it out. Like, oh, hey, Heaven Ascension Dio is going to try to stop time to prevent this from happening. But then Dio carries it out. Oh, hey, this still will land it. There are a lot of ways where I could think of how they could win. This team is one of the best teams I've ever seen, because what's such phenomenal abilities that this team of villains could have to offer, and the potential is amazing, but the potential isn't the issue. It's being able to survive this assessment stage of the fight to be able to continue it. Imagine you have someone like Pucci, who is most likely faster than Heaven Ascension Dio. He could chop his hands off and then jump him, but why would he know to go directly for that? And we've seen how Pucci strikes. It's usually meant to be lethal, not something that odd. And I understand that, oh, you're gonna reference like, oh hey, we saw that happen to Stone Free. Stone Free and Jolene were fighting. That was just a casualty that just happened. Plus, Pucci has already known about Jolene's ability for a very long time by now. You know, that's why that just went the way that it did. This case is completely different. But you know, say that these potential scenarios happened and they win. Oh, great, that'd be amazing. But it's like the practicality of it happening and getting that to actually bypass the stage where, oh, hey, I'm Dio. I can stop time and end every part of the fight. You know, it's a lot more work to make them win than to Dio to win in this case. And I think I'm being completely fair. I don't even think that Dio, Heaven Ascension Dio in specific, is like one of the smartest characters on this field. It's clearly like Cars, or even in terms of strategy, somebody else, just not him. But his abilities just surpass that realm of intelligence and strategy. Like, he's just that powerful. So I'd say I've been pretty fair with it for the most part, but yeah, Heaven Ascension Dio against every JoJo antagonist shouldn't be too difficult for him, honestly speaking. But if you do have counter arguments, you know, leave them in the comments like y'all normally do. Like the video if you thought that, you know, well, you liked the video. And again, you know, subscribe, because it'll tell me that, hey, yo, we kind of mess with this stuff. You know, I mean, and that helped. Thank you all for watching. Hopefully I'll see you all in the next one. Until then, peace out and Godspeed.